Tonight on Live Chat, a billion-dollar town built for a dam is about to become a ghost town. One group sees a beacon of healing for thousands. But is it a noble dream doomed by its own ambition? We investigate the two futures facing BC Hydro's Site C camp. Plus, his devastating diagnosis at 29 could save your life. The urgent cancer warning from a young musician in Australia whose doctors didn't listen, and why every family needs to hear his message at this time. And later, from a worrying spike in violent crime on Surrey streets to the slow crawl across the Pattullo, we're breaking down the local stories that matter to you. All that and more right now on Live Chat with James. Now, good evening, folks. Welcome to another episode of Live Chat with James here from the studios in Vancouver, British Columbia. Yes, it's ProPix TV, and we are here to bring you the top stories. Now, welcome to Live Chat, where we're going to go behind and beyond the headlines to connect the dots on the stories shaping our world right here in Metro Vancouver, across the country, and of course, around the world. Tonight, we have a packed show. We'll be diving into the monumental decision facing Northern British Columbia over the fate of Site C and the workers' camp. A choice between groundbreaking wellness center and a groundbreaking recycling effort. We'll also share a powerful and personal health warning from a young musician that could have life-saving implications for you and your family. But first, let's get to the rundown. Yes, here we go. We begin tonight with escalating tensions on the world stage that are now directly involving Canada. The Trump administration has taken the extraordinary step of imposing sanctions on Canadian Judge Kimberly Prost, who sits on the International Criminal Court. The sanctions are in response to the court's investigation into the actions of U.S. personnel in Afghanistan, a move that places a Canadian jurist at the center of a major international political and legal standoff. Meanwhile, here at home, a landmark legal decision is forcing Ottawa's hand. The BC Supreme Court has ruled that key provisions of the Indian Act are unconstitutional, giving the federal government a deadline of April the 26th to bring the century old legislation into compliance with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. This ruling follows a successful challenge by descendants of individuals who were forced to renounce their status and marks a significant moment in the ongoing legal journey towards and inclusive of Indigenous rights and reconciliation here in Canada. Meanwhile, the country's economic pulse is being tested by labor unrest. The union representing Canada Post workers has tabled new offers seeking higher wages as negotiations continue. This comes as thousands of air travelers are still navigating the fallout from a recent labor action at Air Canada, with the airline now offering reimbursement assistance for passengers whose plans were disrupted. It's a clear sign of the persistent pressures on both workers and consumers in our post pandemic economy. And in Ottawa, the political landscape is shifting. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is set to return to the House of Commons after a decisive by-election victory, signaling a new chapter in federal politics and setting the stage for a fall session that promises to be contentious. We're turning our focus closer to home now, from the bridges you cross every day to the safety of our suburban streets. Metro Vancouver is a region in constant motion. That's next. Now, anyone who lives or works in Metro Vancouver knows that our region is defined by movement and by this massive infrastructure projects designed to keep us moving. The Big Build, as it was called, continues to reshape our communities. The Surrey Langley SkyTrain project is pushing forward, a 16-kilometer extension of the Expo line that promises to connect one of the fastest growing areas in the region when it opens, with an estimated in-service date of 2028. But progress comes with disruption. Commuters along the Fraser Highway are navigating a full road closure between 140th Street and 96th Avenue. A major shutdown expected to last until the end of October 2025 to facilitate construction. Further north, the work continues on the Pattullo Bridge replacement, a critical project to replace the aging and vital connection between Surrey and New Westminster. For thousands who rely on the crossing daily, the new bridge can't come soon enough. But as our region grows, so do our concerns about public safety, particularly in our largest suburb. The story of crime in Surrey is complex and right now deeply contradictory. On one hand, there's genuinely good news. Citywide efforts appear to be making a real dent in property crime. Recent data shows residential break-ins fell by 21% between 2022 and 2023. Some neighborhoods have seen even more dramatic improvements, with South Surrey reporting a 26% drop in property crime, and even the high-risk area of Whalley is seeing a 21% decrease. These numbers suggest that targeted policing and community vigilance are finally paying off where it matters to many families. Yes, the security of their homes and vehicles. However, the latest official statistics from the Surrey Police Service paint a much more alarming picture on another front. Let's not forget that these numbers above that we were talking about are from 2022 and 2023, so there was still some post-pandemic impact there, I do believe, of more people working from home, people being at home much more often, but again, that would have been following the pandemic, so we'll have to watch and see how the numbers go forward. However, the report for the first quarter of 2025 reveals a troubling 14% increase in violent crimes, what the police classify as crimes against persons, compared to the same period last year. This recent spike suggests that while opportunistic property theft may be on the decline, the more serious underlying drivers of violence, from gang conflicts to personal disputes, remain a significant and growing challenge. The narrative isn't one of simple success or failure. It's a clear signal that the battle for public safety in Surrey is being fought on two very different fronts with starkly different results. In other local news, a fire has caused extensive damage to the historic former South Surrey Little Theatre building, a loss for the community's cultural heritage. And in Cloverdale, a passionate rally was held by local horsemen fighting to keep the Fraser Downs racetrack open, a story about preserving a unique local industry and way of life. Surrey continues to grow and change, with families and businesses constantly on the move. Having a reliable partner is key. Whether you're moving to a new home or relocating an entire office, our sponsor, Carey Movers Limited, handles the heavy lifting so you can focus on what's next. Find them at careymovers.com. That's K-A-R-Y movers.com. Now, coming up next, we're going to take a deep dive, into what it was built for nearly 2,000 workers at the cost of nearly $500 million. Now, the Sightsee Dam's Instant Town is set to be dismantled. But what should it become? A beacon of healing for those battling addiction, or a model of environmental sustainability? The two competing visions for its future right after this. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, that if you are watching the show, you're welcome to add into the chat. And it is always open for you to comment, whether it's on the stories we're covering or on topics completely unrelated to tonight's episode. We always want to hear your opinions, your thoughts, and include you in the conversation. But as we continue on, let's take a quick peek at our sponsor before we return to the headlines making news. Yes, we are looking at Carey Movers Limited. They are one of our main sponsors for our episodes, and of course bring lots of relevant topical information to you through the sponsorship of this show. Now, Carey Movers is a professional, efficient, and reliable moving partner in the Metro Vancouver and Fraser Valley for all local moves, whether you're moving residents offices, commercial facilities, or even just a piano from one side of town to the other, don't forget that Carry Movers is here for you. You can also reach out to Carry Movers for long distance relocations throughout Western Canada. They are a family owned and operated local company that's been serving the community for over 20 years. Now, Carry Movers has direct fleet moving services, meaning that your items are not piled into a truck with someone else's, being cross-docked throughout the country to get you to your final destination. You have a designated truck with your goods only, and also if have rodents or other insect issues, it's not being brought into the truck with your personal goods. Some definite benefits: if you have questions about an upcoming move, email info@carrymovers.com or visit the website at carrymovers.com. That's KARY movers.com, where you can request a personalized free quote for your move under no obligation, of course. But again, Carry Movers has been around for several decades, providing reliable, cost-efficient services for all levels of relocations. Once again, Carry Movers can be found at www.karymovers.com. Check them out. And again, thanks to everyone at Carry Movers for their support of the live chat with James episode, this one and many others. As we continue on with the show tonight, folks, let's move on to the rest of the Site C Worker Accommodations Camp. Yes, for more than a decade, or actually nearly a decade, it's been a self-contained mini town in the state of, in the heart of northern BC. But to those, of course, that are involved in dealing with it now that it is no longer required for worker accommodations, there are many questions. Now, it was built to house the thousands of workers constructing one of the largest infrastructure projects in the province's history. It's a massive facility with 21 three-story dormitories containing 1,764 single-occupancy rooms. It features a full medical clinic, a gymnasium, a movie theater, a commercial kitchen, and dining halls. It also has other attractions that were there, but it was constructed and operated by ATCO under a contract valued at approximately $470 million. But now, as the Site C Dam has finished completion, the instant town is facing its. The original plan was for it to be a single-use, temporary installation. Now, BC Hydro is actively seeking proposals to give the buildings a second life, but no viable plans have emerged as of this far. The default option is demolition, with the vast majority of this $500 million investment, over 665,000 square feet of buildings, concrete and steel, potentially heading to the local landfill. However, there are other alternatives that are being looked at. Now, the dilemma is obviously given rise to two starkly different visions for the future that could potentially come out on this. The first is a vision of healing. The Northwind Wellness Center, in partnership with the Treaty 8 First Nations, has put forward a bid proposal. This is to transform an entire camp into what they call Canada's premier center for excellence in mental health and addictions. Proponents argue that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They claim the facility could address a waiting list for treatment in northern British Columbia that is currently more than 6 months long, train over 200 new healthcare workers, and ultimately save the provincial healthcare system more than $30 million. It's a powerful, optimistic vision to turn an industrial asset into a place of profound social good. But a closer look reveals potential disconnect between this noble dream and the harsh realities on the ground. The proposal faces immense logistical, financial, and clinical challenges that may render it unfeasible. First, the tyranny of distance. Yes, the camp's remote location. It is ideal for a self-sufficient construction project, and it is a significant liability for a large-scale healthcare facility. Rural and remote communities in British Columbia already face severe challenges in accessing care, including long travel times, high costs for patients, and Of course, chronic staffing shortages. Establishing a 1,700 bed treatment center in such an isolated area would amplify these problems exponentially, creating a new set of barriers for the very people it aims to serve. Secondly, the buildings themselves were never meant to be permanent. They are temporary individual modules. BC Hydro's own documents state that the interior finishings, fire prevention, and fire suppression systems would all need to be upgraded to meet the building codes for permanent dwellings. Commentary from those who have stayed at the camp describe it as a cheap hotel with small rooms and temporary construction not built to last, making it ill suited for the therapeutic environment required for long term care. The cost of such a massive retrofit could also be very prohibitive. Now, finally, perhaps and most critical is the potential strain on an already fragile regional service infrastructure. The facility of this magnitude, housing a concentrated population with complex health needs, would place an unprecedented burden on the nearest hospitals and emergency services, which are already struggling to serve the existing population of northern British Columbia. With that said, of course, the most telling evidence of the proposal's feasibility, however, may come from the North Wind Wellness Center itself. While proposing this 1,700 bed mega facility, the organization is concurrently moving forward with an actual expansion project in the nearby community of Pouce Coupe. That project, which is fully planned and budgeted, is for a 60 unit facility with a total cost of $25 million. The sheer difference in scale from a planned 60 bed center to an aspirational 1,700 bed takeover is staggering. This nearly 30-fold leap suggests a profound disconnect between the organization's proven operational capacity and the immense demands of the Site C vision, raising serious questions about its viability. Now, let's keep in mind that this is a very good idea in concept, but practically it may cause more issues or challenges than it solves. So I thought that it was important to take a look at some of the challenges that would be faced, but also some of the back information about Site C. Before we continue on here, I thought that we may just take a look at some of the promotional videos and other media updates from Site C that give you a basic idea as to what Site C is. Now, of course, for those of us who reside in British Columbia, we know what Site C is. We know about the dam. We know about the hydroelectricity. We know about the benefits, including the real green push that they had brought forward in order to make this happen and create a viable, economically successful project, while at the same time respecting environmental concerns. And that, of course, is a challenge when we take a look at the various plans and issues here. So we'll take a look at the green plan and what could be done to mitigate this from the landfill impacts that people are concerned about. But let's first take a look at some video footage from BC Hydro about the Site C Dam so you can understand what it is that we are discussing in this full story. Bear with me a moment and we'll pull up the video so you can get an idea as to what it is, as I said, that we are discussing here. So again, as you can see, the sheer magnitude and scale of this project is massive. The dam is complete and online, and it was a huge project and success for the development of infrastructure and clean energy in the province of British Columbia. Now, let's take a quick look at one other video. And this was the Site C construction tour, and that was from the winter of 2023. Once again, it just kind of gives you an idea of the scope and the size of the Site C construction. And then we'll go back and we'll take a look at what a potential solution could be to have the Site C facility for the worker accommodations of Lloyd landfill. So let's take a look at that, and you can get another idea from BC Hydro's own internal and external sharing on their YouTube channel about the Site C construction. So let's take a look at that. So, as you can see there, it has far reaching implications for the success of the project because it wasn't just about building a new hydroelectric dam. It was also about improving the infrastructure in surrounding communities, as you saw there from the Cache Creek Bridge through to other areas. So, it has a significant impact and success in the scale of the project. However, the most telling evidence of the proposal's feasibility from it when we're looking at the Northwind Wellness Center, of course, is looking at whether or not they are going to be able to make that a reality, and whether it really is logistically responsible for that region. Now, this leads us to the second major path for the potential of the camp's future, and that's one rooted not just in social transformation, but in environmental and economic pragmatism. Now, careful deconstruction for a circular economy. Yes, there is that option as well, which could create many jobs within the Northern British Columbia community, as well as teaching in the process, a new process of recycling and reusing building materials to the local community, creating not just new employment opportunities, but a whole new industry within that region. Now, this alternative moves beyond the simple, wasteful choice of landfilling, which is a major concern of the local communities and regional districts. Deconstruction is the process of methodically dismantling buildings to salvage valuable materials for reuse. The environmental benefits are clear. It would prevent a massive influx of waste into the North Peace Regional Landfill, a primary concern for local government and residents alike. It also avoids the toxic dust associated with traditional demolition and conserves natural resources by reducing the demand for new virgin materials. Keeping in mind also that it would also bring in new technologies and even artificial intelligence to help with the international distribution of the reusable materials. Now, the economic case is just as compelling. Deconstruction creates more local jobs than demolition. It also unlocks the value of the materials themselves. High quality lumber, windows, doors, fixtures, and metals that could be salvaged and sold, generating revenue and providing cost effective materials for projects in other communities and potentially around the world. Now, with large scale industrial recycling firms that are out there, there is a proven track record in the success of such an operation. However, this operation would actually be groundbreaking, no pun intended, in the fact that it would also incorporate the use of AI and other technologies to help with the identification of potential markets where these building materials, whether it be individual categorized areas such as doors and door jambs through to windows, bathroom taps, we can actually use artificial intelligence to look at different areas around the globe that have shortage of used building materials or even new materials where the used items could suffice. So again, it is taking some of the newer technology and even bringing it further into the future on today's scale. So again, a very, very interesting and intriguing opportunity there to be leading the way to the next step in the world of recycling, reuse, and of course, reducing the landfills. So again, an exciting opportunity that lies within. Now, this is, of course, the expertise availability. Yes, it would happen in northern BC, creating new jobs and a new industry in that region, which also could be hugely exciting for the regional district and the local communities. This is not something that would be a one-off project, though. This would build, as I said, a long-term, new, enhanced industry using AI, using technology, and using the world's demand for recycled building goods and materials. Now, the decision facing BC Hydro and the province is a stark one, representing two very different philosophies. So let's take a look at some of the benefits and flow of the options available. So here we are. We will open up this graph here so that you can get a good look at this. Just a few points of interest, I think, that highlight the difference between the two projects, but show that if either one was to move forward and able to succeed, how it could be a major win for not only the local economy, but also for BC Hydro and Site C in their vision to be environmental stewards for the future. Now, as we take a look here, you can see the Site C dam in part from, again, compliments of and appreciated contribution from BC Hydro. So that is a great step as well. I'm just going to reduce some of our clutter here on the screen so that I can go through it with you and keep that moving. So as we say, the tale of two futures, it's a table here on the screen now that shows the feature and the primary goals, the stated benefits, and so forth, to look at summarizing the two options. So with the proposal 1 of the Wellness Center and proposal 2, the deconstruction and recycling through the use of new technology, AI, and other methods that are still not fully released because of the potential for proprietary and other patents that are going to be pending. Now, the primary goal, of course, of the first project, Proposal 1, is social healing, addiction treatment, and mental health help. Now, in Proposal 2, it's an environmental stewardship and economic return. The stated benefit of option 1, of course, is to address a healthcare waitlist and a much needed service, but whether or not it can be successful in such a remote location, that is one of the questions. Now, the stated benefit of option 2 is, of course, creating jobs, creating a new industry, and avoiding landfill while generating revenue for the local communities. The major challenge for each one, of course, the extreme logistical and financial hurdles for the first option of the Wellness Center. The major challenge for option 2, of course, requires upfront investment and coordination. A company that is in talks and has brought a proposal to BC Hydro and the Site C as well as ATCO. So they are in holding and are available if it should go that route. Now, in terms of infrastructure, the costly retrofit of those temporary buildings for it to be used as more permanent facility center, that again is a major challenge. Now, of course, the infrastructure for the option 2 would be materials being salvaged for global reuse. Again, a very big benefit for that. Now, the local impact, of course, there's a major strain on the medical services that are already in place. So this would add a major unprecedented strain, even furthering the concerns of the community. The local impact for option 2, of course, would be a positive that they are creating local jobs, a local industry, and reducing, again, the landfill burden. So again, that comes up. Now, environmentally, the reuse of the site, but high operational footprint is a concern when you look at the environmental impacts of the option 1. And option 2 for environmental impacts, of course, maximizes the waste material and reuses it to minimize that actual waste and impact on the local landfills. So again, there are various options, but also various challenges and benefits to each of those, not stating which one is better, as ProPix Canada Media, through our studio development and services, building services side, has a role in the environmental project proposal. So again, just in clear transparency, we have various technological and other areas of investment, and that is one of them. So we need to ensure that you understand that we do have a dog in this fight. But moving on, folks, we can look at the various other parts of concern and, of course, of potential success within that area. But it's a choice between a bold social experiment and a pragmatic environmental one. The fate of BC's instant town hangs in the balance. When we come back, he was 29 years old. He is a successful musician and in constant pain, but doctors told him he was too young to have cancer. His story is a wake up call for anyone to become their own best health advocate. That is next. As we move on in the show, folks, we just wanted to bring up another point of interest for you. Yes, for those who are unaware, ProPix TV has several other programs that we produce for other networks and other channels, but also we have a sister station for those who love true crime and justice TV. We have unique programs that are originals to the channel at truecrimeandjusticetv.com. You can find unique documentaries and original content that's produced by ProPix TV and True Crime and Justice TV. And you can also find links to other true crime programs that are of interest to any fanatic who just can't get enough true crime and justice. There on the channel, of course, you can find information and documentaries that explore the opioid epidemic, the betrayal of trust, yes, looking at the Sackler family, and Purdue Pharma. Yes, we also, on the True Crime and Justice TV, share body release of LAPD body cam footages, as well as other body cam and dash cam footage to discuss different instances and different events in law enforcement throughout the United States and worldwide. So again, a lot of differing content that hopefully is of interest to our viewers. We also have a documentary that's a ProPix TV and True Crime and Justice TV original. Yes, Canada's Buried Secrets. It's a history of Canada's residential school problem in Canada, a dark history. But we look at different points, such as the Shingwalk Residential School in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, as well as the Indian School residential system that is a major systemic failure to those involved, and the evolving or ongoing generational trauma that it has caused. Of course, we also look at schools in Spanish Ontario and other regions, as well as other information of importance on that whole issue. Of course, we also crime and justice documentaries ranging from the dark history and brutality of the MS-13 gang. We have information about India's human rights crisis being ignored for trade and, again, other international benefits to India. We have 3 warning signs of a deadly love triangle. We have so many other stories that it is a fun channel for all true crime lovers to check out. We also want to invite you that if you are looking for advertising and sponsorship opportunities, we have those available as well on all of our channels and all of our platforms. So if you're looking to sponsor episodes or to sponsor a documentary or anything else, whether it's true crime or just human rights and other social issues around the world, we are happy to discuss those with you. You can email directly to ProPix TV by reaching out. Yes, the email address is smile, S-M-I-L-E, at propixcanada.com. That's PROPICS Canada.com. And again, thank you to our program sponsors, Carry Movers Movers Limited, www.karymovers.com in Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley for your local moving needs. And of course, serving Western Canada for decades in long distance relocations. Again, you can get your free quote and information on their website at www.karymovers.com, KARYmovers.com. Now let's move on to our next segment, ladies and gentlemen. A sad story, but one that hopefully can be an educational one for our viewers. Recently, a very successful musician in Australia has spoken out about his concerns with the medical system and how it failed him on a major scale. Now, this is Jordan Brunoli. He is 29 and was living the dream as the bassist for the popular Australian indie band Bugs. Yes, off stage, he was living a nightmare. For months, he was in constant pain, suffering from symptoms that worried him deeply. He sought help, but his concerns were repeatedly dismissed by doctors and emergency departments. The underlying assumption was clear. He was too young for anything serious, but he wasn't. After finally being sent for a scan, Jordan received a diagnosis that was both devastating and completely out of the blue. Incurable stage 4 colorectal cancer. The disease had already aggressively spread to his liver and lymph nodes. In an instant, his life changed. He underwent major surgery and began grueling chemotherapy. But through it all, he found a new purpose: to share a message he believes could save lives, in a statement that should serve as a rallying cry for patients everywhere. He wrote, yes, he was online trying to raise awareness and education, that he told people getting a diagnosis now could be the difference in a stage 1 tumor or a stage 4 metastatic. Yes, that is a really harsh reality for this young man, as they didn't, in terms of the medical professionals, didn't think that he was old enough to have this type of cancer. And instead, it prolonged the development or prolonged the diagnosis and allowed the rapid development of the cancer from whatever stage it may have been, had they have caught it earlier, to where it was now at a stage 4. Now, this shines a harsh light on a disturbing public health trend, and that is the rising incidence of colorectal cancer in people under 30. Let's keep in mind that it is normally seen to be a concern of those over 50. Now, it forces us to ask a critical question: how can we prevent these stories of dismissal and delay? The answer may lie within our DNA. Yes, many of these early onset cancers are linked to hereditary conditions. The most common is Lynch syndrome, an inherited genetic condition that affects an estimated 1 in every 279 people. In simple terms, Lynch syndrome is caused by a mutation in one of the genes responsible for repairing errors when our DNA copies itself. Think of them as the body's genetic spell check. When that spell checker is faulty, errors can accumulate, dramatically increasing a person's life in certain cancers, most notably colorectal and endometrial cancer, often at a much younger age than the 50 that people look at. Again, in full transparency, I personally am one who has been diagnosed with Lynch syndrome through a very non-invasive testing process through the BC Genetic Hereditary Cancer Program. So again, there is testing out there. If you have a family history of cancer, this could definitely help you. Check if your community has, or your region has, a hereditary cancer program or genetic testing program that is testing for more than just Lynch syndrome these days. It is wide expanding and rapidly developing. So again, I encourage you, if you have a family history of cancers in your family, look into whether genetic testing is an option. It is very simple through a simple blood test, saliva test, hair test. There are different ways to test for different concerns, but again, it is very unintrusive. It's very quick, and it is an easy process that could save your life. Earlier detection, of course, or just identifying if you are at a higher risk of different cancers, including the colorectal cancer, can help to monitor much closer and catch it much earlier. So, again, I encourage everyone to look into that and to be tested. Now, this is where Jordan's experience becomes a powerful lesson in the importance of proactive healthcare. A younger person presenting with abdominal pain may be dismissed, but a young person who can walk into a doctor's office and say, I have these symptoms and I have a confirmed diagnosis of Lynch syndrome, that changes the entire dynamic. Now, that genetic knowledge transforms a patient's vague concerns into a predictable high priority risk. It definitely provides the leverage needed to demand further investigation and compels the medical system to listen. It's a tool of empowerment that can overcome the exact type of diagnostic inertia that led to late stage tragedies such as this. And again, our thoughts are with Jordan Brunoli. We can only, send our best thoughts and prayers to you and your family as you go through this challenge. I know it well through my family history, through my relatives that have been lost, including a cousin that was lost the day after his 28th birthday as a result of colorectal cancer. Now, here in British Columbia, that knowledge is accessible. Genetic testing and counseling are available through the BC Cancer Hereditary Cancer Program. And I know from experience, they are an amazing group of people that lead the Hereditary Cancer Program. And my family is very involved there as well. Now, remember that the key is knowing when to ask for a referral. The guidelines point to several red flags in a family's health history. So let's take a look at that for a quick moment before we move on. Now, pay close attention to this. You should talk to your doctor about a referral if you can answer yes to any of these questions. Okay, question 1. Has anyone in your immediate family, a parent, sibling, or child, or a close relative like an aunt or uncle, been diagnosed with colorectal or uterine cancer before the age of 50? Has a family member had more than one type of Lynch-related cancer, such as colon and stomach, or uterine and ovarian cancers? Those, again, are concerns. Are there 3 or more relatives on the same side of your family who have had Lynch-related cancers at any age? Again, if you can answer yes, then you should get screened. You can find more information on the BC Hereditary Cancer Program website and also UBC, the University of British Columbia's medical websites as well. You can do a search. Now, a positive test for Lynch syndrome mutation doesn't mean you will definitely get cancer, but it is critical life-altering information. It means you can begin enhanced surveillance, like starting regular colonoscopies in your 20s or 30s instead of waiting until you're 50. I know it sounds bad, but it is better than the alternative. But it also means that catching precancerous growths on a stage 1 tumor, not a stage 4 metastatic cancer, it means turning your family's history from a source of fear into a roadmap for prevention. Once again, as someone with Lynch syndrome, I do get regular colonoscopies. I know it's not a pleasant topic to discuss on the show, but I think it's very important. And when I do go in, I regularly have polyps removed. And I've also had gastro surgeries where they've gone in from the top end to remove polyps in my throat. So again, very important about the early catching of these polyps, have them removed before they become cancerous. And again, prolonged life is a beautiful thing. Now, Jordan's story is a reminder that some of life's biggest moves aren't planned. So just remember, you want to make sure that you are on top of your own health and that you are your best health advocate. Now, once again, let's take a quick peek at our friends over at Carry Movers Limited. Yes, they are there when the unexpected happens. Having a support system you can trust is everything. For moves you can plan, Carry Movers Limited provides the same peace of mind. Professional, reliable service at www.karymovers.com. Yes, that's carrymovers.com for all of your local move requirements and needs in Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley, as well as long distance moves throughout Western Canada. You can reach them via the website, getting a free non binding quote that you can go on 24 hours a day and submit for a response on the following business day. Now, tonight we've seen two stories about futures at a crossroads. One, a community decision about $1 billion asset. Well, we also looked at a choice between a bold social vision fraught with challenges and a pragmatic environmental one that promises a different kind of value. The outcome will say a lot about our priorities as a province here in British Columbia. The other, of course, is a deeply personal story that becomes a universal call to action, and that is Jordan Brunoli's fight. And that is a major one, and is a reminder that in the often impersonal world of healthcare, we must be our own fiercest advocates. It underscores that the most powerful tools we have are knowledge and our own bodies. Of course, we are the ones that know our own bodies best. Knowledge of our family's history, of course, is also of utmost importance, and the courage to demand that our voices be heard in our healthcare system. I am James Cousineau. Thanks for joining us on Live Chat with James for another episode. Remember that we are back again tomorrow night. You can join us anytime by watching the rebroadcasts on all of the major social media platforms that we're on. We also encourage you to share your thoughts on today's episode and also, of course, we invite you to give us your story ideas on topics that you would like to see us cover on the program. You are as much of a part of the show as I am, so make sure that you leave your comments below, and we will respond accordingly. Alternatively, if you don't want to put your concerns or your suggestions in the public comment and chat space, by all means, you can always email smile, S-M-I-L-E, at propixcanada.com. That's P-R-O-P-I-C-S Canada.com. Once again, thank you to our sponsors, Carry Movers, and we look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow. Please join us when we will have all new headlines from around the world, and we'll do a deep dive into several other topics that are of interest to you, our viewers. Don't forget to check out our other sister station at www.truecrimeandjusticetv.com, where you can get your fill of true crime documentaries and other information and programming. Once again, I'm James Cousineau, coming to you from the studios here at ProPix TV in Vancouver, British Columbia. Take care, everyone, and stay safe.